Hi everybody and welcome to Josiah is Right. So this is the second in our series of Comic-Con videos. The second we're recording it because I don't know what order we're actually going to put these out because we're just kind of doing them all at once. We're going to segment them up. So I have my friends, my Comic-Con friends here. We have Paul,
Hello.
Penny, Josiah is me, and below us, which you cannot see behind me under the desk, is Akira. So we're going to talk right now about Comic-Con panels. Now Penny has never had the pleasure of going to a Comic-Con panel. So, or the displeasure, maybe, I should say. It depends. So let's talk a little bit about what are your experiences, Paul, with Comic-Con panels?
Mostly I do Hall H, and that requires a lot of waiting in line.
Yeah.
And
so Hall H, we talked about it a little bit in our last video, basically our first video rather. Hall H is the big giant, it's like 6,000 people can fit in there. You actually line up outside, there's a bunch of tents that you'll go to, so it's just this massive, like, it's going to like a rock concert, like for a big band. Like, you're going to a U2 concert here, not like, like I'm really into indie rock music, and I've never been to a show that big for, other than U2, which was actually bigger than that, but still, like, that's the only, U2's not indie rock. But it's quite an undertaking, so.
Yeah, I would say the best thing to do is always keep hydrated, always have water with you.
Yes. And depending on it, like last year particularly, it was really hot in San Diego.
Oh yeah, it was like 100.
Like normally it's beautiful, but last year was really sort of abnormally hot.
And
obviously if you're fair like Penny, if you're going to be outside, sunscreen, right kid? Make sure you have the sunscreen.
And then I would say with your friends, take shifts waiting in line, and then make sure you're there to get the wristband for Hall H.
Yeah, and that's something they just started doing the last couple of years, the wristbands.
Yeah, I think so. 3 years?
I think so. Like, before that, you would just line up and you would wait to go directly in. Now you line up for the wristband and then you come back with that, where you still kind of need to line up.
Yeah.
It's still lines on top of lines on top of lines. But the cool thing about Hall H, just so you know, it's once you're in, you can't leave. But there are concessions outside and restrooms, so you can, you don't lose your seat, but you can't like leave to go to the convention floor, and then you can't get back in. But you can at least kind of take a break from being in that dark room for 12 hours.
It's like a whole day commitment.
Yeah. So essentially what they'll do is they'll stack, they'll have Warner Brothers, and then they'll have Fox and whatever, boom, boom, boom. Certain days they have certain panels, but it's all on top of each other. And then they'll have something in the evening too. So they'll have like a, like the primetime thing, and people are always coming in because certain people only stay until they want to see such a thing. Like one year I was there for, it was when Catching Fire was coming out at Hall H. So I went there because I wanted to see Fox because Days of the Past, my favorite X-Men story, they were doing the movie. So I wanted to be there for that panel.
That was a great panel, by the way.
It was.
It had a new cast together.
Yes. It was great. Patrick Stewart, awesome thing he said. They said, if you could be any X-Men character, who would you be? Patrick Stewart's response was perfect. He said, I would be any female in an X-Men movie because then I would have a chance at winning an Academy Award. And the ironic thing is, he has a really good chance at winning an Academy Award now because of being Professor X, thanks to Logan. But anyway, that was one of my favorite panels. But before that, we were watching, it was the Catching Fire one, and Judy was more into that. She's more into, I enjoy those movies and books, but she was more excited about that. But a lot of people that were there for Jennifer Lawrence and all that stuff, which she was also at the X-Men one, but then so a lot of people left because they saw the thing they wanted to see. They don't need to stick around for the other stuff, but they missed, that year was like Guardian Galaxy, a couple other things, so they missed some cool things. But the point being,
Hall H usually has the biggest announcements.
Some
of the convention,
groundbreaking thing. That year actually, that was when they announced Age of Ultron as well. So like things like that they hadn't said before. So you'll be the first to know, which is pretty cool.
Do you remember what year it was when Tom Hiddleston came out as Loki?
That was the same year. That was the same year. Yeah, because that was
amazing.
Yeah, they didn't have a proper panel for Thor, so they didn't have Chris Hemsworth, all these, but he came out in character as Loki and like shot like lightning and the lights went and flashed, and he did the whole thing in character. And it was so awesome, you forgot that you didn't get to see like the whole cast and didn't get to ask questions. It was amazing, and it was so cool because he was like mocking the crowd, but at the same time he was sort of laughing to himself because I think he realized how many people that were there that were just into this. Like, it was really cool. That was the same year actually, and that was the only year I've ever been to Hall H. That's why I know it's the same year.
Oh yeah, okay.
So it has to be.
I remember 2010 when they announced the Avengers. Yeah, and that was like one of the best moments in Hall H. Like, what? Like, that's crazy.
So, Or similarly, I was there when they announced probably the same day, Batman vs. Superman, and Zack Snyder came out. Like the awesome moment where he had the actor who played the General announce from the Dark Knight Returns, reading the "Remember, Clark, I'm the one that beat you," and then the crowd went crazy. The lights came up, and then unfortunately we saw the movie a few years later. But hopeful for the Justice League, though. Hopeful. And I didn't hate Batman vs. Superman, but that's not what
I
this
thought
is
Wonder
about.
Woman was great, but
I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen that movie yet, thanks to this little one. So she's cool, but we don't like. She hasn't gone to see a movie yet, so she's not even 6 months old. Have you had any experience with Ballroom 20? Have you ever been there?
Yeah, actually, I have been to Ballroom 20. It's a lot easier to get to than Hall H is.
Still big, but smaller. They do more television stuff there.
Yeah,
so they do I remember I always wanted to they would do a Simpsons, Futurama, all the Fox animated shows right stacked on top of each other. They would do True Blood, which Judy was into. I watched it, but I wasn't enough to want to go to the panel. But they would sort of stack those all on top of each other.
One thing I'm very proud of is 1 year I was able to do Hall H and Ballroom 20 in the same day. That I was able to manage that. I'm not going to say how I did it, but I was able to manage it, and it was the last year that Breaking Bad was on, and I had to do because I love Breaking Bad, and I was able to get there, and I was pretty proud of myself.
It involved meth.
Well, but yeah, almost. It was pretty intense.
I don't even know that I want to know. Not in front of my daughter.
I know, right?
Not in front of my 6-month-old baby.
Until they're
or my
4,
dog,
right?
Yeah. So
the dog's still there.
He's still under there.
He's still under there.
Can you hear him? He just made his noises. When do you line up for these things, Paul? Probably this week, actually. You
have to line up pretty quickly.
The line kind of became a famous thing, and it was maybe the first year that I went when Twilight was out, and someone from a Twilight, the line for Hall H got run over and killed. And that was kind of the big thing where the lines became a big issue, and the safety, because that's when people started to camp out. Before that, it really wasn't a thing. So
I think it was 2012 or something. I camped out for the first time, and that was unheard of. And now everybody camps out.
Everybody does it.
It's insane. People were camping
Not
out
us,
for
me.
Force Awakens panel.
Yeah.
Yeah. It kind of got out of hand, and I wish Comic-Con would kind of regulate that a little bit.
Yeah. It kind of I'm talking in the other video about parking by the homeless shelter, and there's not much of a line dividing the people that are homeless and the people that are camping out at a certain point. So to go see, Avengers Master of the Universe movie preview. So, hey,
I would say if you want, you'd probably have to line up the day before at around maybe 4 or 5 p.m.
Yeah.
So pretty much if you're spending the whole day doing the exhibit hall or whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of as it's dying down. It closes at 6, I believe. I think the floor closes at 6. We'll check that.
But pretty much as soon as the exhibit hall dies down, I would recommend going in line.
And that's for the next day.
Yeah, for the next day.
For the next day's panel.
And then once you get your wristband, you're good.
And that wristband wait could be a long time, right?
Yeah.
How many hours? What's the latest it took you to get them?
I don't know, one time at midnight.
Midnight, so.
They've been better about it. I think last year about 9 p.m. or so. They're getting a lot better.
Yeah, I think it's a newer thing. Just like I mentioned in the last video, they now send these with everything inside. They didn't used to do that. I guess you'd have to go get it, which is another line to be in. But now for the halls, they're each year they're improving. They really are. It's taken them 40 years of Comic-Con, but it's really the last 10 where it's been a big, huge, crazy thing, and really the last 5 to 6 probably where it's been just insane. So. What next?
And one more thing. I highly recommend waiting with your friends in shifts so you don't wait too long.
Yeah.
And then when you get your badge, maybe have 1 or 2 people kind of wait there and to have your place in line. Because once you leave, you kind of lose your place in line. You're guaranteed a spot in Hall H, but if you want to get closer, I recommend staying there. And just have 1 or 2 people there.
Because the further back you are in Hall H, you'll be watching on a video screen. As Judy and I were for ours, and we were cool with that, but if you want to be closer, you've got to really commit. That's the thing,
Yeah.
And Judy and I, when we did it, was before they did the badges, and the dog keeps moving around. It was when Judy and I did it was before they did the badges, and what you would do is you would go and line up and people camping. And Judy and I got there at 3 a.m, or we got up at 3 a.m, got there at probably about 3:30, 4 o'clock, and then we got in when they opened the doors at 9 something, and we were in the back. just so context of the wait list, which we were fine with. We just wanted to be there to experience it. But if you want to be closer where you can actually see the actors and not just be like looking at them on a monitor, it's kind of like, like a sporting event.
And then when I say like the 5 p.m.
And when people leave, also when people leave, you can kind of sneak forward too. If you're
you can.
Like I mentioned earlier, the people that were there for the fire, the Katniss stuff, all the girls left, the younger girls, not women in general, but the young girls are really into that. They would actually leave, and then you could sneak forward and move up. We met like a few rows, I think, actually.
Yeah. And then what I recommend the 5 p.m. where I was in Hall H when I sat down was kind of like in the second set of rows in the middle, so I could see the stage and everything. I could, so I don't know. It depends on like when you get, because you can wait 5 minutes and like 50 people will get in line.
Yeah. And
stuff like that. So it's timing is everything. Like you get there, I would say 5 p.m. is the day before is a good time to go, and then just kind of adjust like accordingly based on what the program is. There's no there's no Last Jedi panel this year.
They're taking all the Star Wars stuff to D23. So Disney,
not too happy about, but
steals everything you love.
There's Game of Thrones.
They kind of do right by some of it.
Game of Thrones on Friday.
Yeah, Game of Thrones on Friday.
Should be solid. There's Blade Runner on Saturday.
Yeah, that'll be a good one. And Game of Thrones, though, it's especially this year because it's kind of like, the beyond the books. So it's actually interesting. And also, Game of Thrones is actually premiering this year right around Comic-Con. Like, it comes out, like, pretty much the same time. Like
next Sunday is the first.
So and that's different because normally Game of Thrones is run its season by now. Usually, it's the season is over, so, like, it'll be like, oh, you died this year kind of thing. But this year, we won't know. It'll be kind of actually a really... Maybe Judy and I and Penny will be doing some Game of Thrones this year because it's perfectly child appropriate. Game of Thrones. Nothing is more child appropriate. She's only 6 months old. She doesn't know anything. You know lots of stuff, right, Pen?
Like she doesn't even remember when Jon Snow was. Spoiler alert. Was dead.
She hasn't read it yet.
Okay. She doesn't even know.
She's not up to that book yet.
Yeah.
Because she can't read.
Wasn't even born
because
yet.
She can't read. Look, she's mad at you for that, Paul.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to spoil that for you.
She'll forgive it. So, so is it worth it?
Yes, it is worth it.
The most hesitant yes in the history of the world.
It depends, because I think some years I almost died doing waiting and stuff. Like last year, I almost had a heat stroke because I was just waiting outside, and I don't think it was worth it last year, but previous years it was.
Yeah, I would say that's a thing. Like, there's times where it is. Like, the year I described, it's the only year I've gone, but it was absolutely worth it. Everything fell into place. It was Guardians of the Galaxy, it was the Loki thing, it was even the Catching Fire, which was a really great panel, the Days of Future Past, the Warner Brothers stuff with the Zack Snyder coming out for Batman vs Superman. So everything fell into place. And there was even probably things I'm forgetting. Oh, there was actually even with Fox, it did Planet of the Apes, which was for the
the Dawn
of the Planet of the Apes, which was actually pretty cool. Because at the time I was kind of like not keen on those movies, and now like very soon War is coming out, War of the Planet, and that looks really good. And I was kind of like
amazing.
Indifferent. I'm a big Planet of the Apes fan for the original series, as good and bad as they are. So I did in college, my undergrad, I sort of wrote a dissertation. Had I gone to grad school for history, was my undergrad degree. I wrote about the politics of Charlton Heston's movies. So I studied the Planet of the Apes movies in serious depth, and from a political point of view, because he's very conservative politically, but his films actually from that era, other than the Bible epics, are very politically left-wing, like Soylent Green and Omega Man. They're very progressive ideas, and these are things he supported. So he was more liberal than people thought, even though he was very obviously NRA and all that stuff. So, but this is the least political conversation ever. But point being is, I'm like the new Planet of the Apes. You will too, Pat. So last thing is, the last bit of advice is to always have a plan B, which probably transcends the halls and is really true of all of Comic-Con. Yeah. So what does it mean in the context of the panels?
Basically, if you can't get into Hall H, maybe have a plan for Ballroom 20, maybe do exhibit hall, maybe do one of the smaller panels, maybe, just depending on your fandom, like, you just kind of prioritize what's the most important thing and always have a plan B that's equally as good, just in case. Because actually sometimes, like I remember a couple years back, I was unable to get into Ballroom 20, and I was walking around and I had a Cowboys vs. Aliens T-shirt. And
that's unfortunate.
Yeah, I know the movie's awful. Actually, it didn't work. But
big bad year at Comic-Con. Yeah, premiered it at Comic-Con.
Oh yeah. And actually, I got to go to the premiere because I was wearing that shirt. And if I wasn't there at that moment, I wouldn't have gotten to go to that premiere and see that movie.
Is this supposed to be a good story, Paul? This sounds like a bad thing.
At the time, it was amazing, but actually,
sounds like a bad thing.
I think I don't know. But something.
So. Another option at Comic-Con actually are we're talking a lot about the big panels. But there are tons of small panels. There are indie panels. There are panels for comic books. All the small stuff in the smaller rooms. And those are really great. You can go into those rooms and actually get in. And you can see a lot of really cool things. That's the stuff we haven't even talked about. Like, that's where like people always say, "Where's the comic book stuff at Comic-Con?" It's in those panels.
I would say
I went to one.
Funny you mentioned that.
Here's another crazy story. So I in our last video, I talked about like enjoying seeing people I know. I was at a panel, and it was a panel about like fanzines in the 60s and 70s, and basically the fanzines at that time, a lot of the people who ran those then became comic book writers, like people like Roy Thomas and like Walt Simonson, different comic artists, like then segued from that world into being actual comic creators because they were fans. And I was at this panel, and this guy stands up to ask a question, and I don't even know what he asked, but it was a good question. He was one of my professors at grad school at USC. I have a master's in writing, that's why Josiah is right, people. And one of my teachers was at this panel asking a question. And so, like, I didn't get a chance to talk to him then, but I, sent him an email later. It was just a really cool thing that, I'm glad he stood up, though, because I might not have realized it was him. So one of my teachers and friends, Lee Walkner, a great playwright as well, he was at Comic-Con at the same comic book related panel that we were at. So it was a really cool experience and cool to see people like that.
And I would say like small panels are they're a lot more intimate. Like you feel more
just like that, like
with the panelists and everything. And because you don't really get that in Hall H.
And that panel was moderated by another one of my teachers at USC, Mark Evanier. He moderated that panel, and I forgot. I went up to him afterwards and said hi, and I think he forgot who I was, which is really sad because there were 6 people in our class. And Mark is a great comic book writer, wrote TV comedy, he's got to start on like Welcome Back Kotter. He actually got to start in the industry as Jack Kirby's assistant. And so one time in class, actually, he received a call, and he's like, "Oh, I can't take this." And I looked on his phone. It was Neil Gaiman, or Gaiman. I don't know how you say it, Neil. Tell me. That's what I said. But someone corrected me once.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were probably wrong. Anyway, I saw that was who was calling him, which is pretty cool. But he didn't remember who it was. So, but those are the cool things about those smaller panels at Comic-Con. I connected with some people from my grad school days and my writing education, and you can get to meet some of the people. I met some of the other panelists. Like I shook Roy Thomas's hand, which was awesome. I got to shake hands with the guy who killed Gwen Stacy. That's pretty cool. Because she was boring. That's why they killed her.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because she was boring.
I thought she was
Mary Jane was more interesting, so they wanted to do something interesting with the character, so they killed her off because they wanted him with the more dynamic Mary Jane.
I was like Gwen Stacy was like Peter Parker's true love.
Kind of true. Like Jeff Loeb wrote Spider-Man Blue, which is basically all about that.
I love this series. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. But I have also another video where I touch on the Daredevil, and so check that out, Daredevil, and I touch on the Spider-Man Blue, and I mostly focus on Daredevil Yellow, but how Daredevil Yellow inspired, along with the Frank Miller books, Daredevil. But anyway, the small panels is really where you can connect with people.
And sometimes, like, there's a certain fandom that you don't know about, and you discover it there at the small panels.
Yeah. Or at least you can like understand how people care, what they care about, why they care about it. It's like almost like like seeing things from a different lens.
Like I'm really into Lost. Well, not so much, but anymore. But I was really into Lost back in the day, and it was like 2010. I went to there's a Jane Jack. They do a podcast for Lost, and I listen to the podcast like all the time. And I went to the panel, and they invited us to their party at. Where was it? At some bar or something. They invited us, and it was super nice. Bought us a couple drinks. We got to talk about Lost, and you don't get that experience a lot of times with Hall H.
At a panel for Lost, he found something.
Exactly. There you go. That was awesome.
That was a terrible joke.
No, I love that.
You love that.
I love it.
Penny didn't even laugh. Penny laughs at everything I say.
I think Penny rolled her eyes. Penny is over this. Yeah.
Anyway, on that, we'll say that's it for this video. Thank you guys for watching again. You'll get more of Josiah and Paul, more Comic-Con in our next few videos, and more other stuff of us having conversations. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment.
Yeah.
What are your experiences with panels at Comic-Con? Actually,